I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 7 p.m. on Wednesday, August the 6th, and this is a special call regular meeting for the Ottawa City Commission. As I'm sure you are aware, we are in a different location this evening, so we're not broadcasting live, but it will be broadcast at a later time. We want to thank the county commissioners for letting us share their room this evening. This is a fine facility. Our hope was that we could get people to come to both budget hearings, and so we welcome everyone that is here in the room with us as well, so thank you for attending. Could we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Reed,
Present.
Commissioner Skidmore,
Present.
Commissioner Jorgensen,
Present.
Commissioner Dickinson,
Present.
Commissioner Kaler.
Present.
Looks like we are all present and accounted for. And again, I'd just like to welcome everyone this evening. We're going to begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, and that will be followed directly by an invocation led by Reverend Jerry Harnden with the First United Methodist Church.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're used to preaching with my back to the choir, my face to the congregation, so I'm going to compromise and stand beside here. And I'm not the pastor of First United Methodist. I'm an old, worn-out, retired pastor. Was there for a number of years some time back. But the pastor is out of town, so I'm standing in for him. May we be in prayer. As we call ourselves together in the tradition of Solomon, we would pray for wisdom and understanding for this council, for all of those who carry out the policies and decisions that they make. We pray for discernment in terms of understanding the needs and the wants of this community. And we pray for that understanding where these who lead us can do their best to accomplish what's best for all. But we would pray also this night, Lord, as we are in this season of elections, for all of those who are serving locally and beyond in our community, in our state, in our nation, that you would give the same sense of wisdom and understanding and cooperation to them. And we would pray also, Lord, for all the young men and women who are in service to our country around the world. We pray for their safe return to their homes. And we would pray this night for our brothers and sisters in the Bethel Chapel Church, the tragedy that they've experienced this week. And we pray that we might find the ways in which we can be supportive of them. All our prayers as Christians, Lord, we lift up in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Very much, Pastor. These are taller chairs than we're used to. Item number 6 will be our consent agenda, which includes several sets of minutes. It is the minutes from the June 23rd and June 30th study sessions, the June 26th special call Franklin County Summit, the June 30th special call retreat with Mr. John Devine, and the July 2nd regular meeting and our agenda. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner,
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
and is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The consent and the minutes are approved. That will move us to our regular agenda, and I'm going to go ahead and read, because we do have a public hearing this evening, I will read the statement about public comments. Persons who wish to address the City Commission regarding items on the agenda may do so as that agenda item is called. Persons who wish to address the City Commission regarding items not on the agenda and that are under the jurisdiction of the City Commission may do so at the time when called upon by the mayor. Comments on personnel matters and matters pending in court or with other outside tribunals are not permitted. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, and any presentation is for information purposes only, and no action will be taken. So under declaration, at this time, I'd like to give commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication they've had that might influence their ability to consider this evening's issues impartially. Okay, then that moves us right on down to new business with item 10, please.
Proclamation for Cord Ferguson.
In recognition of Cord Ferguson's first-place finish in discus at the USA Track and Field Junior Outdoor Championship and ninth place in discus at the IAAF World Junior Championship, we will be presenting a proclamation to Cord. So Cord, I'm going to go ahead and read this, and then I'll have you come up and accept it. This is an exciting time we're glad to be able to celebrate with you. So the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas recent Ottawa High School graduate Cord Ferguson became the discus champion at the USA Track and Field Junior Outdoor Championship on July 5th with a throw of 201 feet. And whereas this distance was the 10th longest in the world this year among athletes 20 and younger, the 5th longest throw in the U.S. history among high school athletes, and also the longest throw in the history of Kansas. Whereas Cord represented the United States in the discus event during the International Association of Athletic Federations World Junior Championships in Eugene, Oregon, July 22nd through the 27th, placing 9th in the world. Whereas Cord's success is not only due to his hard work and commitment, but also the commitment of his parents, coaches, friends, family, and community that supported and encouraged him as he advanced from event to event. Now, therefore, the governing body of the City of Ottawa, Kansas, does hereby recognize Cord Ferguson for achieving first place in the USA Track and Field Junior Outdoor Championship and ninth place in the IAAF World Junior Championships, and encourages the City of Ottawa to join in this recognition and express congratulations to Cord for a job well done. Signed this 6th day of August, 2014, by the mayor. And Cord, if you want to come up and accept this, and then part of this is you get your picture taken again. I'm sure you've had that done a lot recently. So.
You can come up closer.
Congratulations, and we want to give you the opportunity to say a few words if you want to there at the mic. We are very proud of you.
Well, I'd like to point out first that there's a really good-looking shirt right there. So. No, I just want to say thank you to everyone, community of Ottawa. It's been an amazing place for me to grow up, and I'm really blessed to have such an amazing support system around me with my family, my coaches, my church community, and in this town of Ottawa. So. Really thank you to everyone, and it wouldn't have been possible without everyone that I've had in my life this far, so thank you very much.
It's always fun to celebrate those great things for our city and our community. So. Item 11, please.
Grant agreement between the City of Ottawa and Federal Aviation Administration.
And under comments, grant number 3-20-0066-012-2014 authorizes $318,200 to the City of Ottawa in federal funds for the construction of new T hangars at the Ottawa Municipal Airport. It sets forth the requirements for accepting the grant and must be returned to the Federal Aviation Administration by August 15th of this year. This item will be addressed by City Manager Neinstedt, Interim Public Works Director Ramsey, and Finance Director Byrd.
Commissioners, as you just read, what this boils down to, in order to get our grant money from FAA for this project at $318,200, we have to sign this agreement. It has to be approved by you, and then we have to sign it and get it back to them.
At this time, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner,
I move that we approve the grant agreement between the City of Ottawa and the Federal Aviation Administration.
and is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve this grant agreement. Is there any discussion? If not, could we have the roll call vote, please?
How do you vote, Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
I vote yes, motion carries. Item 12.
Grant application for all-weather operating service.
The Ottawa Municipal Airport is asking for a grant to install an AWAS with present weather capabilities to allow for accurate airfield weather data. The total project cost is $150,000. City Manager Neinstedt will address this item, and I believe we also have a couple members of our Airport Advisory Board that may
We-
also speak.
We do, Commissioners. We have Chairman Jack Miller, and we have airport member Chad Kaler, who can kind of talk to the practical side, the pilot side of this. One of the questions that was asked Monday was what the annual cost would be on this, and the KDOT Aviation responded to us. You have to calibrate. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm not a pilot, but they can correct what I say. But here's what I do know. It likely will cost in a maintenance contract about $200 to $300 a month. That needs to be calibrated monthly. Then there are a couple of other options for where we get the information for the weather. And then there's the cost of the electricity to run the instrument, but what I'm told is that that's negligible.
Do either of the members of the board want to come address us, or give us your input? Both of you?
Madam Mayor and the Commission, I wrote down a few notes here, and I'm just going to kind of read. This is like that point in school when you're nervous to read in front of the class, so that's where I'm at. The term AWAS, basically, it's an acronym. It stands for Automated Weather Observing System. And what it is, basically, it's just a ground-based system made up of just several different sensors. These sensors are basically going to collect data, and it's on a minute-by-minute basis. It's continuing to collect this data and advise pilots who are either departing the airport or arriving at the airport. Some of those items that they're going to information they're going to get will be wind speed, wind direction, what the visibility is at that given time, current altimeter setting, which probably doesn't mean a lot, but for pilots it's very important. Temperature dew point, and then also the sky conditions. So all those things kind of get grouped in there. It's going to give pilots a good snapshot of what the weather's like at the airport at the time of departure or arrival. Increases safety is really the big thing. At this point now, pilots are basically flying over the airport, look out the window. There's a wind sock, gives you a direction. Which direction the wind's out of. Not a real good indication of the velocity of the wind. Adding this service, like I said, is going to improve safety, but it's also going to open up the airport to a lot of commercial operators, other flight departments, people that can utilize the airport for really what the goal is to get new business attracted here, and really just kind of open it up for that there. Again, that's just kind of in a nutshell. I'm open to taking any questions or anything like that. I don't know if Jack may have anything he'd like to add.
No, I think you covered everything explicit. Just a quick example, real world example. I just recently got back from AirVenture Oshkosh, my wife, and I'm sure fortunate and happy there were AWASs that were available because the weather was touch and go all the way, but I had that information beforehand, so I knew what direction. As a matter of fact, I did not make it into Oshkosh. I had to go to an alternate airport, Fond du Lac, because of weather, but I knew that ahead of time. So it's extremely useful tool, aviation tool, and it allows, like Chad said, for a commercial operator to file direct to our airport. Because right now you can't really do that. You can go to one that say New Century, but I'll tell you what, the weather up at New Century and down here in Ottawa can be a whole lot different. It's something that would give of most benefit. You can go out too and look on the KDOT aviation site, and you'll notice that of the 137 airports that are in this state, very many of them, which are even smaller communities than we are, currently have AWAS 3 systems. So.
Question on that. What are we currently using? I mean, just the windsock and?
Windsock, there's, the AWAS system is an approved, and that's to kind of back up why it needs to be calibrated and checked, on a routine basis. It is an approved source of weather. The person who's at the airport who looks out the window and says, the wind is, I think about this, that's not an approved, obviously, an approved source. So that's really what is utilized now, is either just the pilot looking out the window, or, calling and getting some type of weather.
We have a very simplified weather station out there now, but you have to contact the fixed base operator on 122.8, and that's generally, practically got to be on top of the airport to get, any information. And all he can give you is what that particular system's telling him, which quite frankly isn't that accurate. So you still look at the windsock when you fly over to make sure you landed in the right direction.
Madam Mayor, as you know, I'm the Commission's representative on the Airport Advisory Board, and the discussion that we've had, this is recommended by our engineer to take this next step. And we're doing a lot of improvements out to the airport as far as building T-hangars, 10 new T-hangars this year. And this is a system that is at, like we said earlier, smaller airports, and it is something that in order to take the airport to the next step, also to allow a lot of the commercial development, the corporate airplanes to come into our community as opposed to Gardner. And something that this doesn't say is that there's a 10% match on the city. The state will pay 90% of the cost of it, so the city's cost is about $15,000.
And the operating cost, again, is between $200 and $300 a month on top of?
That's the information that we had from KDOT Aviation through our consultant engineer.
So we got room in the budget for that, I assume that would work. Okay, good.
Is it, when oftentimes individuals who aren't well-versed in aviation may believe that bringing AWAS, and when you say commercial, that doesn't mean necessarily that Delta's going to land here next week, right? So it opens us up for charter operations and other small.
Charter operations and corporate flight departments generally, legally to file a flight plan to the airport, you have to have an approved source of weather.
Is it possible that charter operations cannot come to Ottawa now because there's no AWAS?
That's correct.
Well, we appreciate your expertise, input in that for sure. Thank you very much. So at this time then, if there's no further questions, I would call for a motion. Madam
Mayor,
Commissioner.
I move to approve the grant application and submit it to the state of Kansas.
And is there a second?
I'll second that.
So it's been moved and seconded to go ahead and file the grant application for the AWAS. Is there any further discussion? Could we have the vote, please?
How do you vote, Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
I vote yes, and motion carries. This moves us to item 13.
Public hearing for the City of Ottawa proposed 2015 budget.
Under comments, a public hearing has been scheduled to receive comments about the proposed 2015 budget. The Director of Finance is prepared to make a short presentation on the highlights of the proposed budget, and along with the City Manager is available to answer questions. The published mill levy cannot be increased, but it may be reduced. After public comments have been received, it is recommended that the hearing be closed, and barring any amendments, the budget be adopted. So at this time, I will open the public hearing, and we'll have our presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Hello.
Once again, it's a privilege to have the opportunity to present the budget for the upcoming budget year. I I want to give you some good news. I know so many times I come before you and I shed a gloom and doom perspective, but I want to give you some good news this year. City sales tax has been strong for the last 3 to 4 years now. Back in '08 and '09, well, '09 and '10, after the crash of '08, you can see that our sales tax really trailed off to the tune of over $200,000. And since that time, it has been trending upwards. Last year, when I stood before you and presented, I have to estimate the, well, in this case, in like 2014, I have to estimate these months in here, these next 5 months. We know what we are through July, but I don't know what it's going to be for the rest of the year, except to estimate based on what I know today. When I estimated this number last year, it was $30,000. My estimate was $30,000 lower than what it actually came in. Again, showing that things are going well. And if we look at 2014 through July, we can see that it's the best first 7 months that we've ever had. So my estimate is reflecting that here and again on both of these two numbers for sales tax going into next year. I think we're going to continue to have fairly decent sales tax as long as the economy stays steady. Another positive aspect of what's going on in the city is the expenditures for health insurance. In 2011, through June, just January through June, we had spent just under $1.1 million. In 2012, we'd spent just under $1.2 million for over the same time period, January through June. Last year, you can see that we spent just under $900,000. And then this year, we're just over $700,000. We're having a good spell in health insurance. That is, our employees are having a good spell in health. And the other thing that's a little bit hard to reflect in here is that we consulted with Kretcher Heartland, which they made some suggestions to us, recommendations to us, many of which we have implemented, and I believe that that's part of what we're seeing reflected here. That's not all of what's being reflected here. The other thing that our consultants recommended to us was a different approach in the way we fund our health insurance fund, and in so doing, we're also realizing some additional savings. I tell you all that to get to the CBIZ recommendation. As was mentioned during the county's presentation, they had done a salary survey. We did likewise. We've had a salary survey done about 2 years ago. We've worked it over pretty good. We've looked at it from several different directions. And what they did is they came back with recommendations for our employees. Now, they looked at all employees and they compared them to people doing those same jobs in other municipalities, and in some cases, where it was appropriate, to commercial employees as well. And what they came back with is a need for some adjustments. We have adjustments in the general fund that are contained in the budget that you have that amount to $166,000. That includes the impact that it would have on benefits. Now, we'll tell you that the largest amount of that affects public safety. There are some other employees, some other positions, I should say, that are affected as well. But that's the biggest share is in public safety. Utility funds are affected quite a bit less. In fact, I would call it de minimis. Of all three utilities, it's in the neighborhood of less than $20,000 for all three utilities. So again, that's included in the budget that was published and the budget before you this evening. Here's the budget for 2015. If I push the right button. $50,250,000. That sounds like a lot of money, and it is. And if you compare it to last year, it's an increase, or it appears to be an increase. But let me explain a couple of things. We have budgeted reserves. We budget our reserve funds in the event that we have an emergency. Let me give you an example. A number of years ago, we had a very bad ice storm. And as you will recall, we had brush windrowed up and down the streets of Ottawa for several days, several weeks probably, until we could clear those out. It cost us about $250,000 to clean up that brush. We had the reserves in the general fund budgeted, and so we didn't have to go back and make a budget adjustment, a budget amendment later on in the year to be able to cover that cost. That's why we budget those reserves. But we don't plan on spending those. And you'll see that for the 2015 budget, we have $9.6 million in budgeted reserves compared to almost 9.4, a little bit less than 9.4 last year. We subtract those out, and you see that the difference here becomes a little bit less. We also have inter-fund transfers. Let me give you an example. The airport fund is supported by the general fund. The general fund makes a transfer to the airport fund. That's counted as an expense. Okay? When the airport spends those monies, and actually I almost do it in arrears, I know what they spent in July, so I've already made the transfer right after the first of the month. I made the transfer to cover those expenditures. So we're recognizing an expense twice, once when it's transferred, once when it's actually expended. So that's double counting the expenditures. We have, now what did I do? I undid it. We have $6,381,000 of budgeted transfers this year compared to $5,364,000 of budgeted transfers last year. Why is it so much different? You'll recall that we refinanced 2 loans this year, okay? They were being paid out of the sewer fund or the wastewater treatment plant debt fund. They were being paid directly out of that fund, okay? Now there will be a transfer from the wastewater treatment plant debt fund into the GO debt fund because that debt became GO debt. Now that doesn't affect our debt limit, okay? Because there's still utility loans, there's still utility bonds in this case, but it doesn't increase our debt ceiling, or our debt limit rather. It doesn't harm it. So once we net those numbers out, we come up with $34.266 million as opposed to, and I don't know what I'm doing, but anyway, $34.667 as of last year. So actually, our net budget is less than it was for 2014. That really surprised me. Let's take a look at the overall budget. And you can see by this pie graph that the utilities are by far the lion's share. It's well over half of the overall $50 million budget. The taxing funds, which is the general fund, the GO debt fund, the auditorium fund, and the library fund, make up $15 million of this budget. And then miscellaneous, or I really should have labeled this special revenue funds, which includes the special streets, special parks, special alcohol fund, the equipment reserve fund, risk management reserve fund, and a few others. They make up almost $5.5 million. This is a little more detail of the same pie. The electric fund is the big one. 43% of the overall budget is in the electric fund. The next one is the general fund at 22%. Why is that? And I will tell you that the bulk of that is personnel cost. But again, that's where police, fire, all of our public works guys, the streets, parks, and so forth, in addition to administration, HR, there's several items that are paid from the general fund. That's followed by the wastewater treatment plant fund and the water fund at both at 7%. That's really hard to see on the screen. I'm sorry, that debt service fund is 6%. And then you see a whole lot of those special revenue funds. The library comes in at 2% of the overall budget. The auditorium is saying 0. What that actually means is it's less than 0.5%. Then you'll see a few others scattered around the edge here. Actually, I probably should have included the KMEA Power Supply Fund in the utilities, which would take that around a little bit farther. One more look at that piece of pie. In those 4 taxing funds, we have $3,884,000 of ad valorem taxes. That's your taxes on your real property. All other is $46,366,000. That's everything else. So that ad valorem, that the property tax, is just under 8% of the total budget. And here is your proposed budget. This is these are the numbers that showed up. They showed up in a slightly different form, but they showed up in the newspaper. Again, $50,250,000, and each one of the 19 budgeted funds by line. Then the ad valorem tax for each one of those. Now, I can tell you that there are slight increases. The general fund increased by about $27,000 in ad valorem tax. The GEO debt fund by almost $21,000. Library fund by almost $28,000. And the auditorium took a small decrease of $500. That brings us to that $3,884,424 in ad valorem taxes, or a mill levy at 48.417. That's a 1.17 increase over last year. And part of that increase is because we saw a 2% degradation in assessed valuation. Let me celebrate just a little bit. Started with good news, I'm going to end with good news. We've seen a lot of good things going on in this community, and one of them you just heard about is the airport. A lot of activity going on. Look at the people there. This is from the fly-in recently, I believe. I borrowed these slides from Matt without his knowledge. And I love that little airplane. I just had to include that. But again, look at the people that it's bringing into the community. People that may not have ever been here, may never have flown here. And you about know that more is coming as we continue to improve the airport with the AWA system and so forth, T-hangars. Speaking of fly-ins, our police department does their own fly-in once a year. Not only do they protect our streets and our families, but they train our kids to be aware of drugs and to resist the temptation to be involved in them. And they get them involved in all kinds of things that young people like to be involved in, including shooting sports and so forth and so on, and they have this fly-in. I think this was from last year's camp. Playgrounds. Boy, have we seen some movement in playground equipment. That's fantastic. I think I'd played on some of the old equipment that was in the parks. But we have a new playground at Forest Park. We have an almost new playground in Kansas Park. I received an email from the city clerk south of Ottawa here, and she said, wow, she didn't know the one at Kansas Park existed. Now, how long's that been? Two years now since that one was built? And she said they'll be coming back to play on that playground again. Not only do we create playgrounds for our children, but playgrounds for our pets. And I've heard lots of good feedback on this as well. And we're considered a playful city, partially because of all that, but we're also being recognized for our efforts in helping the community be healthy, and that's what this check was about, was being a healthy community. But in addition, right now, this is some of what's going on right now, new ramps, new sidewalk ramps, and we're getting some new sidewalks out of the deal too. We will spend, well, I'll wait on that just a minute. I want to recognize our firefighters. They did yeoman's work this week, long hours. But not only do they protect our property and answer our calls when we have a fire, they try to help us prevent them. I don't know how many of you all know, but the fire department has a program to provide you with free smoke detectors if you want them. And if you want them, and if you want the help, they will show up and help you install the smoke detectors. That's what's going on right here. We kind of forget in August, when it's time to adopt the budget, what our streets guys were doing last winter. Moving snow all night long while we were in our beds. Picking it up and moving it out of Main Street area, the downtown area, so that we can get around. The budget presented to you, like I said, is a slight decrease. It's about $75,000 more in ad valorem tax than the 2014 budget. And I spelled that out to which funds that was affected. The overall increase for the average, if there's an average $100,000 home, is about $1.22 a month. Now, that will affect commercial property differently than that, but just for the homeowner with a $100,000 home, and if your home is valued a little differently, you can do the math and come up with, a $200,000 home, and it would be $2.44 a month. One more thing. We're going to get about $1 million worth of street projects done this year, and I've looked ahead. I hope we can do that again next year. That's 4 times the amount of street work that we've been able to do over the last several years. Per year. This is an old picture, but it illustrates what's going to be going on here in the near future. Streets and some additional sidewalks, in addition to the ramps that are being worked on. Questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. This is the time when we would love to hear feedback and input from anyone in the audience here. Questions, comments, anything. We just ask you to come to the mic and state your name and address and let us know what you're thinking. So the commissioners have heard these figures, and we've worked on these literally for months, and our department heads have done all the work behind it to get it to this point. So this is the time when we would really like to hear from you, get your input and see what you think. So the mic is open. I might ask if there are questions or comments from the commission, because we could intersperse that. If we have some here, then maybe it might get some conversation going. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I do want to thank Scott and all the department heads putting together this budget. Quite a process involved, and there was some tweaking involved here, which it should be when we come before a commission, but for the most part, it was as presented. We want to thank you for that. When the county valuations are going down, and then we're able to maintain a budget like we have, I'm very impressed with that effort as well. So I want to say congratulations, and I'm very satisfied with what we've presented here today.
Any public comments, questions? Yep, Mr. Hurt? Just because it's a second meeting, if you don't mind just stating your name and address, please, we'd appreciate it.
Gene Hurt, 125 South Street in Williamsburg. I want to say congratulations to the City Commission. You know, Mr. Jorgensen knows that I had screamed really loud years ago about the airport, why it wasn't updated so it bring more business and more people, that instead of having to fly to Gardner or to Burlington. So I'm glad to see that you're going to go forward, I hope, and get the airport to what it should be so they don't have to go flying somewhere else. So I assume that you're going to be selling jet fuel. Is that right?
Yeah, it's part of the strategic plan, and we're taking, continuing on those steps. So definitely that's a big part of it.
Okay, well, I think that's great. So
We're buying a fuel truck that'll be able to handle the jet fuel.
because I think that's the biggest thing I felt years ago, as you know, about the airport.
Yeah.
It really needed to be uplifted, brought up to date, so that we can get that flowing for this town.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Anyone else?
I think Mr. Hurt's comment definitely connects, even though it is maintained by the city. The airport really is a county resource because it is the airport that we have in Franklin County. So even though we do maintain it, it is something that a lot of Franklin County residents do use. So thank you.
One last opportunity. Anything else from the audience? The commission? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and we will move to item 14.
Adoption of the 2015 budget.
Following public discussions and more than weeks of study sessions, as well as tonight's presentation and comments during the public hearing, adoption of the 2015 budget is required. So at this time, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I would make the motion that we go ahead and approve the 2015 budget as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the adoption of the 2015 budget. Is there any discussion? I might just say, as we said in the introduction, the numbers can go down, and of course, a lot of this is based on what the true valuation comes in from the county clerk at that point, but we cannot go any higher by statute. So if we could have the roll call vote, please.
How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
I vote yes, the motion carries. Item 15.
Acceptance of the fiscal 2013 financial audit.
The 2013 financial audit was prepared by Mize Hauser and Company, PA. And I believe Mr. Bird's going to talk to us about this.
You all have copies of the audit?
I just gotta find it yeah, I've got mine right here. No, I don't. Yes, I do. There? No, I don't.
Well, you've been through this with Audrey, our auditor. I'm going to take you through a few things that she pointed out and maybe one or two that she did not. I'm just going to hit the highlights of what she covered. I'm not going to go page by page like we did the other day. If you would turn to page 2.
And Mr. Bird, this is available or will be available to the public, so if they're watching, they could actually
Yes.
access it online?
Yeah, we will put it on our website, and yes, it will be available, and we will have copies at City Hall as well. So usually we'll make sure that the library has a copy of it.
Perfect, thank you.
If you go to page 2, in the third paragraph down that says opinion on regulatory basis of accounting. It says, in our opinion, the financial statement referred to above presents fairly in all material respects the aggregate cash and unencumbered cash balances of the city as of December 31st, 2013, and as Audrey pointed out, that's the best opinion we can receive. We keep our books on a cash basis. That is what the Kansas statutes require. We also have the option to use generally accepted accounting principles. That's called GAAP-based accounting. But as our auditor expressed the other day, very few municipalities, generally only the largest ones, do GAAP-based accounting. I will tell you that the finance department here in Ottawa is moving that direction, and I hope that we will get there one day in the not-too-distant future. However, in the meantime, understand that it's quite an expensive proposition to take some of that on, because there are some pricing of infrastructure that's underground and on top of the ground and in the air that has to be done before we can fully comply with all of the GAAP requirements. On page 3, right across there, you'll recall that those are the two loans that we refinanced, and that is noted on page 11. At the bottom of page 11, the auditors followed up with a subsequent event that we refinanced those. And as I mentioned, we saved $300,000 in interest on those over the term of those two loans. If you'd turn to page 13, I will point to the violations, a couple of areas that I was not pleased with at the bottom, and the city manager and I have agreed that we're going to challenge these because those are actually federal monies and really shouldn't have been cited in here. So what we're going to ask the auditor to go back and revisit that. And then if you go to page 46, and this has to do with their auditing on our grants, our federal grants. Very bottom is the opinion. Bottom of page 46. In our opinion, the city complied in all material respects with the types of compliance requirements referred to above that could have a direct and material effect on each of its major federal programs for the year ended December 31st, 2013. This is a good audit. Could be a little bit better. And honestly, I think it should have been a little bit better. Again, we're going to challenge that one citation because that was federal monies. And they know that we're not always going to get the money that we expended first, then we have to ask for it. We don't always get it before December 31st, and that's what they're citing, is that we had some negative balances in our grant funds. And those were federal monies, and there's supposed to be an allowance for that, so.
And you'll keep us up to date on how that goes?
Yes, ma'am, we will do that.
They don't count that as an account receivable? I mean, it's coming in. but
It is an accounts
It
receivable.
is, but they don't consider that
Yeah,
like on the.
they dealt with it as, on a cash basis is what they did, but there's a provision that should allow for that to be a receivable and not strictly cash.
I mean, it's a pretty sure receivable, right?
Absolutely. Well, we hope so.
Yeah, that's what I.
As much as what anything from the federal government can do.
Okay, yeah.
Are there any questions on the 2013 audit?
And what makes this a little bit more complicated than some things keyed in on this the other day when she was talking to us, they were listed.
Just have a comment that, once again, we have a good audit, and congratulations to you and your department for putting the practices that you have in place. And the quality of our financial statements, and also the fact that we do save reserves, budget reserves, and save money for purchases and for that rainy day, which is best practice, is one of the reasons why we do receive as good of ratings as we do when we sell our bonds. And so the job that you and your staff do in the department are a big step in the savings, that $300,000 savings that we enjoyed on that bond. And that savings actually paid for the interest costs on these street improvements that we're doing. So that was a way of finding money to do the work that we do as a city as a whole. So congratulations to you and your department.
Thank you. I'll pass that on to the department.
Thank you.
This time then, I would accept a motion to approve that financial audit, or accept that financial audit. Commissioner,
I move to accept the fiscal 2013 financial audit.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
Has been moved and seconded to accept the fiscal 2013 financial audit. Is there any further discussion? We have the vote, please.
How do you vote, Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
I vote yes, motion carries. Thank you. That will move us to report by city manager.
Mayor, I have nothing except to thank you for getting out of your routine. Former Mayor Kaler, this is one of those goals we had, was to meet off-site, so even though we didn't do it in your term, we did do it. So now that we know how to do it, I would hope that in the next year, once a quarter, we could go meet, we could divide the city up into fours and go do meetings off-site in neighborhoods.
Okay, we'll go to reports by city commissioners. Start down here on the right, please.
I just have a personal comment. My wife and I are celebrating our 9th anniversary today, so it's not live, but it will go out that I did say a happy anniversary to her today.
So Commissioner, were you saying that publicly because you want all of us to give you advice on camera?
No.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Kaler.
Happy anniversary. I do have several comments. First one is that we have not met since National Night Out, and I wanted to note that National Night Out was a huge success, and thank you for all of those citizens that actually did participate. And riding the fire truck sure is fun, and coming to neighborhoods to share our good news and really hear from the citizens about what it is that they are looking for in our city. That's always a really great evening. Several years ago, okay, not several, but when I was in Fellowship of Christian Athletes in high school, we visited every church in town, and we did that not only once but several times a year. And so I had attended Bethany Baptist Church several times a few years back, and always loved being there, loved the spirit that I would get out of their service, and am certainly sorry for their loss. Number 3, before we meet next time, children will have gone back to school, so please watch out for them. They'll be walking. We are going to be lucky enough to be adding some sidewalks on the east side of 15th Street, where children will be able to walk on those sidewalks. And luckily, we were able to add sidewalks on the west side of 15th Street. And I don't have a time that I drive down the west side of 15th Street that I don't see somebody using those sidewalks. So watch out for children. If there's not sidewalks where you're driving, they may be out in the street. So please watch out for them. Likewise, as children get bigger, we send them off to college. And unfortunately, some of them, depending on how they look at it, we send them off to university, which means they leave our city. But we are so fortunate to have a great group of kids or young adults, such as Cord, who was here earlier, to send off to university to represent the city of Ottawa. We always hope that they come back and give their time and talents to the city of Ottawa, but I know that when our citizens arrive in other university towns, that they make our town look really great. So good luck to them going off to university. I was privileged last night to go to my 3rd DARE camp graduation, and it always is fun. And what is always amazing to me, Chief Butler, who's in the audience here, is that after 2.5 days of, I know you work those kids, and they work so hard out in the heat, and they are exhausted, they still are very, very excited at graduation. And I was lucky enough that my daughter was one of those in attendance at DARE camp graduation, and she had a great time. I did throw away her shoes today, sorry. But obviously she had a great time because the shoes were destroyed. So thank you to your entire staff and any of your volunteers and all of your volunteers who gave of their time, especially to Larrabee Alexander, who really puts together a fabulous camp. So thank you to him and your entire staff that does that. And I think that's about it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Skidmore.
Sure. I just spent a lot of time on our city parks, and I just want to say congratulations for the well-maintained the parks that I visit. I went to a disc golf course in Kansas City and came back to ours, and ours is by far better than the one in the city. So I was really impressed with that. Thank you very much for the good detail of taking care of our parks. And maybe with our attention to wellness has something to do with our insurance. If our city employees are embracing also better health styles and lifestyles with our parks and our sidewalks, then maybe it's evidence with the insurance costs coming down. So maybe that's a testament to the rest of the community to get out and use our parks and sidewalks, and maybe you'll be more healthy.
Well, I earlier today, I had a chance to talk to Pastor Walker of Bethany Baptist. He's a friend of mine, as are several members of his congregation and Pastor Walker's family. As a side note, his son Trey Walker, who was a star of the Kansas State football, is going to be coaching football at Ottawa High School. So we look forward to that. So that'll be nice. He indicated that they do plan on replacing the church and better than what it was before. As a member of Sacred Heart Catholic Church here in town that has burned 3 or 4 times and has been rebuilt, sometimes tempered by fire or can make a community stronger too. So we look forward to watching that take place. Also, I'd just like to thank all those who got out and voted yesterday, seeing our democracy in action, and actually vote in the general election in November.
Mayor's reports, I also attended the DARE graduation last night, and just, again, same thing. That's a wonderful program, and so great for the kids in our community, and it's extended out now to even outside of other districts outside of Ottawa, so that's been great. KCP&L has worked with ECAN to donate some fans to people in Ottawa that are really, during these extreme hot times, are really needing some help keeping cool. And so the city of Ottawa has chipped in $1,000 to do that as well. And so we have a check to get to ECAN for help with those citizens. And then another great thing to celebrate tonight, and some of you may have already seen it on the news or on Facebook, is that Ottawa, the latest report that just came out, Ottawa was ranked number 5 as one of the top 10 safest cities in our grouping or our demographics in Kansas. And it just goes right along with all the other things that we are working on. The National Night Out actually goes toward that purpose as well, to get people to know their neighbors better and feel safer in their communities. But all the things that we do as a community to make it a better place to live and to bring people in, this is another one that we can be so proud of, and we can promote our community with that fact. So thank you so much for everybody who helps participate to make it that safe community. And I just think it's really something we should be bragging about. And with that, I would just draw your attention to the announcements at the bottom of the page and remind each of the commissioners before you leave, we have some forms for you to sign. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner,
I move that we adjourn.
is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Sorry, Matt, we didn't make 15